So Zach, Big 12 Media Days.
Welcome back.
Yes, welcome back. In Vegas. How is it different for you, year or two here at the Trib, doing this in Las Vegas? I mean, you've been to enough Media Days events. Was it different here in Sin City?
Yeah, the vibe was a little bit, it was cooler, man. Like they had the showgirls out, Taj Brooks from Texas Tech is handing out poker chips. We're staying at the Bellagio.
There are no rules anymore,
We're going all out. This is
right?
this is the new Big 12. I mean, for me, I feel like I knew more people. I was a lot more confident. It
Yeah,
was
yeah.
a much, in some ways it was more intense because it felt like there were maybe fewer people here,
Mm.
more teams, but at the same time it was less intense because you had more opportunity to maybe get up close and personal with a lot of the new coaches, new players and stuff. So overall, I think it was a great move, even if it's just a 1 year thing. I think it's a great move to kind of bring it out west.
Yeah, absolutely. I thought, as you alluded to there, we had some great access to not just Baylor, but all the players in school, players and coaches in the Big 12. And we'll be bringing you a lot of stories in the coming weeks, regarding all of that. What were just some of your biggest takeaways, from storylines, whether it's Baylor, whether it's around the league?
Well, I think from a league-wide perspective, I think the newbies this time around are going to make a lot more of an immediate impact than the newbies from last time around.
That's fair.
Last time around you had Texas and Oklahoma still kind of as a big dogs. This time you got Utah, Arizona, who I think both really want to come in and immediately compete. And then there's Prime, Coach Prime. He was going off up there on the stage, and
He was
he
hilarious.
had his posse, and it's a whole circus. Love him or hate him, he's entertaining.
Oh, no
And
question.
I think so I think that this new Big 12 is going to be far more challenging for teams like Baylor, for even Kansas State, who I think is another favorite of the returning schools, than the old new Big 12, if that makes any sense. So I think from a league-wide perspective, those new schools are really good. Those are four really good additions to the league, and I think it makes the league stronger. So I think that was my immediate league-wide take.
You mentioned Baylor. Dave Aranda created a little bit of buzz today. He was on a interview with Smoke and the guys at Sikkim, and was asked about their recruiting success, and he said, "We're paying players," and he just put it out there. It's not like this is breaking news. This is happening in college football, but it still always just kind of, hits us funny when a coach actually
Right.
says it. Obviously, we had chances to talk to Dave more about the NIL piece and everything. How do you kind of view that? Has Baylor stepped its game up in NIL?
100%. I mean, and I give Dave Aranda a lot of credit because he's kind of admitted his faults in that
Mm.
regard. He kind of said, I did things wrong before, and here I'm doing them. I'm trying to do them right, and I think you're starting to see that pay off. Daquan Finn, he wasn't here, but I know he was a big time recruit, and I know NIL was a huge part of him coming to Baylor and being part of this team. And I know you talked to Matt Jones a little bit about maybe being on the older side of the NIL things, which was pretty cool. But yeah, I think Baylor has one of the things that Dave Aranda said he was going to do when they brought him back after a 3-9 season was increase NIL, and certainly he's kind of got a renewed focus for NIL.
Yeah. Yeah. I asked Matt, I said, did you come along too late in recruiting? He said, tell me about it. And he was like, can I get a senior discount? And I think what he meant was a senior bonus.
Right.
But yeah, I'm not in charge of that, Matt. So I mean, I'll go to bat for you. But uh, is there a player or a coach besides, I guess, Prime, that you were like, oh, this guy can really talk. This guy's very interesting, got a great story or
Well, I mean, I know last year I was asked about the newbies coming in, all that, and I was really high on Kenny Dillingham and Arizona State, and I still think that he is the youngest coach in the Big 12. He coached at Auburn under Gus Malzahn. He's got a great history. He's from Arizona. I talked to him a little bit about going to a new conference and recruiting Texas kids. They've already got like 17 kids on the Arizona State roster,
Mhm.
and they're not going to be very good, but it gives them the opportunity to maybe play closer to home. So I really kind of bought what Kenny Dillingham was saying and kind of, his vision, his long-term big picture vision for Arizona State and what they can be. And I think in a conference as wide open as the Big 12, I really think he can kind of help take that next step.
Personally, I mean, you already know that I have a kind of an old connection with Willie Fritz at Houston, from way back in the day, mid '90s. I was at the Brennan Banner Press, and Willie Fritz was coaching the Glenn College Buccaneers. I'll bring that story to the Trib here in the coming weeks, but it was cool to see him. This is a guy that's coached high school football in Texas. He's coached JUCO ball in Texas. He's coached at Tulane. He's coached at Sam Houston State. Took them to like the F what is that? FCS.
FCS,
Yeah,
perhaps.
FCS championship game, So he's seen a lot of different levels. And I asked him about, what through all of that journey, has made him think he's ready for the Power Five. And he was really first of all, he was complimentary of all the places that he had been and was like, look, I could have stayed at Sam Houston and been perfectly happy. I could have stayed at Glenn College and been perfectly happy. But he also has aspirations, and and I think like all of these coaches have a little bit of an ego, and that's a good thing. Like he wanted to prove himself at this level, and I loved that hire for Houston. I think he's going to do a really good job. Um, these things take time, even in the era of transfer portal and stuff. These things take time. I always have said this for years. I say, give a guy 3 years. Let's see what he can do in 3 years. And by year three, that's when I think he can make a judgment about, what kind of a coach he's going to be.
I was going to ask you about Willie Fritz. It's like how successful do you think he can be at this level? You mentioned all the levels he's been at. How successful can he be, and how quickly do you think he can turn Houston, which has a really good, obviously, recruiting base or area to recruit?
Right.
How quickly can he turn it around?
I think it's a great question. I think this is going to be such a parity-filled league. A big key for Houston is that they've really ramped up their facilities. He talked about that to me. They got like $160 million football facility coming. That's going to help them a lot. But I was really impressed, and this didn't surprise me. Talking to the Houston players, I was like, well, what was your first impressions of Willie Fritz? And they were all just like, oh man, I didn't really know what to expect, but and one of the guys said, he said, I'm not a guy that's you can't win me over right away.
Right.
You've got to like show me,
Right.
and
Huh.
basically he was like, he showed me, he comes to work, and so I think he's going to do a really good job. And like you said, he's got that fertile recruiting
Right.
ground right there in
Right.
Houston. If he can get just some of those guys every year, he'll be golden. And it's a whole different game for him because he just, he's never coached at this level in a Power Five conference. But I think he'll adapt well.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I think he's a good hire. I think he kind of in that Lance Leipold and Chris Kleiman mold. Like
Yeah,
he's done it at the last level, and pretty clear you can build a program. And I think he's got a great opportunity.
yeah, I think he's a good fit. Just having coached in Texas and
Mhm.
stuff,
Yeah.
much like you said, I think those are good comparisons. Leipold and Kleiman. When K State hired Kleiman, I just always thought that feels like a K State kind of,
Clearly,
I mean, clearly, I mean, he's doing an amazing job. So, who today would be your pick to win the conference?
man, we're just talking about K-State. I'm still going with K-State.
Mm,
I wrote yesterday, I wrote a story on Cam Rising in Utah. They're probably a close second, but I still think K-State, they have been so consistent for as long as Kleiman has been there, and in kind of a conference that, like you said, it's going to be filled with parity. I think they're the surest bet. And I think I like Avery Johnson. I like that offensive line. That defense is, it's going to hit you. So, like, Chris Kleiman and K-State, that's my pick to win.
I guess I'll go with the preseason favorite, the one, but the most of the media went with, which was Utah. You mentioned Cam Rising, clearly, a guy that's got some skins on the wall. Probably a lot to prove, having missed all of last year.
All of it.
Yeah.
Year and a half since he last.
Yeah,
played.
year and a half. Wow. So I think they're going to be really good. They're just clicking along at a high level. Certainly K-State should be right there, but it's another team I think we've got to at least mention is Oklahoma State. With all of it that they have coming back, including, a Heisman type guy and Ollie Gordon, who is not going to miss any
Not gonna
time.
miss any time.
Yeah, a pretty stout defense. Stillwater is never an easy place to play.
And I think they've got 5 offensive line.
Wow.
All of them.
Yeah. So to me, don't overlook Oklahoma State as a potential Big 12 champ too.
And Gundy was asked, we were talking to him over in the scrum, and he was asked, who's the face of the Big 12? And he was like, he thought about it for a minute. He was like, well, I guess it's got to be me, right? He's like
the hair of the Big 12.
He's like, I don't know how this face would look on a magazine, but
Well played. Yeah, for sure. Yeah. Well, he's a man. He's 50
more than 40 now.
Yeah,
that's for sure.
Right. Well, it was fun here in Vegas.
Yeah,
I think, it might be fun to bring it back closer to home where it's not quite as big a deal travel wise, but certainly a cool experience here. And we got to take our picture with Showgirls.
I mean, I tried my hand at sports betting for the first time.
Yeah.
I made a whopping $1.10. I profited $1.
You came away with money.
But I'm in the green. So
yeah. I may or may not have to make a future bet on the Astros to win the World Series. So I'm gonna, we'll see how that works.
When in Rome. Vegas, baby.
Vegas, baby. Vegas. Good stuff. Good stuff.